Morning, everyone. Hope you are well. Hope that you enjoyed last night. Fascinating discussion and conversation with some very eminent faith leaders, which we hope and pray will be able to continue, as we said last night, to move things forward. Today's learning is dedicated to memory of Leah Bas Feivel, Sivia Bas Mordechai, Avram ben David Slavin, Shlomo ben Yisrael Morris, Eliezer ben Shmuel Teret, Eliezer Shalom ben Avram Shmuel Berest, Tzipora Feigela Bas Reuven Baruch, Shalom ben Elieli, Bena Bas Feivel, Fruma Shoshana Bas Yaakov Shmuel. We wish their respective families long life and only simchas in the years ahead. Let me just see if I can do that. Right. Okay. Good morning, everyone. So we come now to perhaps two of the most famous sages of this period that you have all heard of, and that, of course, is Hillel and this is Hillel and Shammai. Hillel and Shammai, who really were two of the greatest sages of the Mishna. One of the interesting things about Hillel and Shammai is the fact that we always associate machlokus, disagreement, with Hillel and Shammai, and in fact, there were only limited cases where they actually disagreed. But we find that there are a tremendous amount of cases that their students disagreed, and that is because as one goes through generations, the understandings or the misunderstandings can grow as a course of time, and therefore that is why they had these disagreements to try to work out and fathom the wisdom of their predecessors, of their teachers. So Hillel and Shammai, students of Shmaya and Avtalion, so they said as follows: Hillel oimer have mitalmidov shel Aaron. So Hillel said that one should be a talmid, a student of Aaron. How can we be a student of Aaron? Aaron passed away 3,000 years ago, 2,500 years ago. He certainly isn't around today. So I'll tell you how. Because if you act and behave and conduct yourself and emulate like those that go before you, then you are considered a talmid. You're considered a student of them. You've learned from them. So that is why, and this is especially, I'm addressing those that have yortzeit, or those that are saying Kaddish, or those that are struggling at the moment. So that is why when we have the Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, we speak about the books of life and the books of death being open. And obviously the question is, we understand why those that are alive are being judged, but how can somebody who has passed away 20, 30, 40 years ago, he's not living, he's not doing anything, so why would he still be being judged? And they say that the idea is that the truth is that we live on long after we have left this world. We know it says, there's a statement in the Talmud that Yaakov Avinu, Jacob our forefather, never died. How is that possible? We all know he was buried. His children escorted him from Egypt to Israel, to the cave of Machpelah, and he was buried there. So what does it mean that he never died? It means that the essence, the spirit of the person never ever dies, and it lives on through the students. They emulate their ways, and therefore there's merit every year that has to be accrued and credited to those that have passed away, because their legacy lives on. So it's a wonderful idea, and now we understand how we can be students of Aaron despite the fact that he's left this world. Oyev shalom, we have to love peace. Roidev shalom, we have to pursue peace. We'll understand this in a minute. What's the difference between a lover of peace and a pursuer of peace? Oyev es abrius, and one has to love humanity, umakavan la Torah, and bring them close to the Torah. So let's take a step back and perhaps say as follows. We know that we already mentioned, there was Hillel and there was Shammai. Now there was also, many generations ago, there was Moshe Rabbeinu, and Moshe had a brother called Aaron. And there seems to be a parallel between Moshe and Aaron and Hillel and Shammai. What do I mean? So Moshe had one approach in terms of his leadership, and Aaron had a very different approach. Moshe was more rigid and strict, right? Whereas Aaron was, as we've seen, a lover of peace, a pursuer of peace. He was somebody who had a softer approach. he was more approachable. That is why it says that when Aaron died, all of Israel mourned, because each one of them had been touched by his compassion, his kindness, his consideration. And in fact, there is a work that parallels that really expands on ethics of the fathers, called Avos Drub Nosson, and it gives us further insight into this concept and into Aaron's workings. And it says there that Aaron had an approach in a way to bring peace to the world. How did he do that? And this will teach us how we should be doing it. So it tells us there that Aaron would first befriend people. So even if somebody had done something wrong, rather than rebuke them and tell them directly what they have done wrong, which perhaps would be the Moshe approach, the Shammai approach, Aaron would be the approach of, he would befriend them and pretend that he wasn't aware of their error in their ways, of their faults, and therefore it would come to light that once they became friendly with Aaron, they were embarrassed by the fact that they were behaving the way they did, and therefore they changed themselves. Nothing had to be said, but they modeled the behavior of Aaron as a consequence of that association and friendship. That's number one. Number two, Aaron, whenever he saw there was a dispute between a husband and wife, he was renowned for solving all the shalom bayis, the marital harmony issues, and those are issues also that exist, the rifts between brothers and sisters, and between parents and children, and between business partners. Aaron, what he would do when he saw there was a rift and people weren't talking to each other, there was a broigus. I'm sure no one knows what I'm talking about, but there are such things with present company excluded. But imagine, he would go over to one party and he would say, you know, Yankel, you should know that Moshe is very upset. He's very upset. He wants to make peace with you. He's absolutely devastated by this dispute in the family. Would you consider making up, knowing that he does? And Yankel says, really? Moshe wants to make up with me after everything that's happened, everything I did to him? He says, yeah. He says, and Aaron would go to Moshe and he would say, Yankel's very upset. Yankel really wants to make peace with you. And basically, through that, which is essentially what Aaron was, and I practice as a mediator, he was the first mediator. In other words, he was able to reconcile and to resolve the conflicts that existed between people amicably and peacefully through approaching, doing what we call in mediation shuttle diplomacy, going backwards and forwards between the parties and bringing them together so that there can be compromise and conflict resolution. And therefore, it's a lesson for us that we have to take that step. The approach of Hillel and the approach of Aaron was that you have to step forward and be approachable and approach people if you want real lasting peace. Okay? And the approach, as opposed to that of Shammai, which is a different approach, which was the approach more of Moshe, was a greater rigidity. Now that you need both approaches in life and in Jewish law. If you just have Aaron's approach, then you have no structure, you have no boundaries, and people are all over the place. People need to know where they are. They need to know the way to behave. They need to know what is right and what is wrong. But you also need an Aaron approach. You also need a Shammai approach. Somebody who's willing to reach out with a hand of friendship. Somebody who wants to bring people together, to bring them back together. That is the way that the second part of the Mishna, in my opinion, is fulfilled. We said in the second part of the Mishna what? That you are able to love everyone and umakavan the Torah. And through that, you bring them close to the Torah. When people see that the Torah is that people that are filled with Judaism, with Torah wisdom, and they see that they are somebody who embodies peace, somebody who's approachable, somebody who's loving and caring, somebody who's non-judgmental, then they say, wow, I want to have a part of that. I want to be involved. I want to be connected to that. And I think that, without getting too political, I think that that is very much the approach of the Torah. The Aaron approach is the approach that we would be taking in the current climate, where there is so much strife, so much animosity, so much anger, which we hear on the radio and we hear in society relating to racial issues. And we're not trying in any way to demean or to diminish that pain, that anguish, that sorrow. We can, as much as we can, relate to it with our being Jews, with our background, with our heritage, with our persecution. But the approach has to be to sit down and talk, to resolve the issues, to work them through. You cannot force your will on other people. It doesn't last. You're just papering over the cracks. And therefore, I think we conclude with our hopes and our prayers that we will be able, each and every one of us, in our own lives, in our personal lives, our family lives, our professional lives, our social lives, and in society, to be able to take the Aaron model. Aaron's model, Hillel's model, is that we don't need to get angry with other people. We are able to come around the other side of the table, to see things from a different perspective, and in that way, please God, we'll be able to see Shalom Vareus, peace and brotherhood between ourselves, our families, our friends, and society as a whole. We now come to Psalm 23, which goes as follows. And of course, when we recite Psalm 23, we are praying for an end to the coronavirus and peace in our time. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He causes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even when I walk in the valley of the shadow of darkness, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You set a table before me in the presence of my adversaries. You anointed my head with oil. My cup overflows. May only goodness and kindness pursue me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord for the length of days. We'll now recite memorial prayer for all those that would be saying Kaddish and have lost a loved one. El Malay Rachamim Shoichein Bam Roimim Amatem Nuchanachana Akam Feshkin Amalos Kedoshim Metorim Kizorakim Asirim Es Nishmois Leah Bas Bible Sivia Bas Mordechai Abram ben David Slavin Shlomo ben Yisrael Morris Eliezer ben Shmuel Teretz Eliezer Shalom ben Abram Shmuel Beres Tzipora Fegel Bas Reuven Baruch Shalom ben Elieli ben Bas Bible from of Shoshana Bas Yaakov Shmuel Shalchuli Olamam Began Aiden to him Manuchos Amlachim Balarachamim Yazdi Rain Besesakana Pavliolamim Vitroba Sakhimis Nishmasam Adonai Nachlasam Vayanuchu Bashlomish Kavam and Amar Amen. Friends, we're going to recite a Refuah Shalema prayer, a prayer for the healing of all those that are unwell. Sadly, our attention is drawn to the riot, to the protests that turned into, in some places to riots, and our thoughts and prayers are with the policemen in particular, many that have had inflicted wounds and are recovering. We wish them and everyone who has coronavirus and everyone who's unwell a speedy and full recovery. Babu Shalom Mispalim Babu Ram Bischaza Kadosh Baruch Hu Malay Racham Malayhem Lach Malakosam Vishlach Lehem Fushlim and Shmaim Lachol Reb Besoch Shachol Israel Refusa Nefesh Fusa Gov Hashtag Bagalas Man Karib and Omar Amen. Wish everyone well. Please God, have a day of good success and prosperity. And please God, everyone should stay healthy, keep well, look after yourselves. Look forward to seeing you on this coming Wednesday, and then Thursday, just to be announced, we have a very special guest that I will be interviewing. Watch this space, details to follow. Take care, have a great day.